For 15 years, she treated animals in her clinic. For 15 years, customers thanked her killer without knowing the truth. For 15 years, her body lay sealed behind a wall, just feet away from the examining rooms where pets received care, in her name. If you're ready to hear how modern forensic science finally brought justice to a beloved veterinarian, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss another case. This is Codecase Crimelab, and this is the story of Dr. Sarah Elizabeth Williams. Victim name: Dr. Sarah Elizabeth Williams. When it happened: March 15, 2009 in Riverside, Montana. When it was solved: September 20, 2024. Years before solved: 15 years. September 20, 2024. 41-year-old contractor Jake Peterson and his crew were 2 days into what should have been a routine renovation job at Mountain View Animal Clinic in Riverside, Montana. New equipment, expanded surgery room, nothing complicated, just another week of work in the small mountain town. But when Jake's hammer broke through the old surgery wall that afternoon, everything changed. The wall was wrong, 7 inches thick when it should have been 4. The blueprints showed nothing unusual: no closet, no storage space, nothing that would explain why this section was nearly double the normal width. Jake told his crew member Tom to wait. Something wasn't right. When he pulled away the drywall completely, his work light illuminated a sealed space, 3 feet wide, 5 feet long, like a small closet that had been completely hidden. And inside, a human skeleton wearing a veterinary coat, a stethoscope still draped around the bones of the neck. Within hours, the small town of Riverside would learn what they'd feared to know for 15 years. They'd finally found Dr. Sarah Williams, the beloved veterinarian who vanished after an emergency call on March 15, 2009. But the truth was far darker than anyone imagined. She'd been there the entire time, murdered and sealed behind the wall by someone she trusted, someone who'd continued running her clinic for over a decade, someone who'd used her reputation while her body lay hidden just feet away from the animals being treated every single day. Before we continue with this shocking case, take a second to like this video if you appreciate the deep dive we're doing into forensic investigation. Your support helps us bring you more detailed true crime content. Jake Peterson had been doing construction work in rural Montana for 18 years. Veterinary clinics, farm buildings, rural projects, he'd seen it all, or so he thought. When Mountain View Animal Clinic hired him for renovations on September 18, 2024, he expected a straightforward job. The clinic had been operating since 2005 and needed updates: modern equipment, better workflow, standard stuff. On that September afternoon, Jake was carefully removing drywall panels in the old surgery area. That's when he noticed the thickness, way too thick. The architectural plans didn't show anything like this. He called out to Tom, who'd worked with him for 3 years. "There's something here that doesn't match the plans at all." When the section came away fully, Jake's powerful flashlight revealed the sealed space and the skeleton inside, still dressed in a white veterinary coat. A black medical bag lay beside the remains. Patient files, yellowed with age, were scattered on the concrete floor. Jake's hands trembled as he backed away from the wall. "Call the police right now." The Riverside Sheriff's Department arrived within 20 minutes. 2 patrol cars first, followed by Detective Sarah Chen's unmarked vehicle. Chen was 44 years old with 19 years of law enforcement experience. She knew rural Montana communities. She understood their close-knit nature and the trust people placed in one another. The forensic teams worked methodically, every angle photographed, every distance measured, every sample carefully collected. The skeleton was positioned standing, leaning against the back wall. There was obvious trauma to the back of the skull, multiple impact points. The clothing remnants included the white veterinary coat with a name tag that was barely readable, jeans, sneakers. A wristwatch on the left wrist had stopped at exactly 11:45 p.m. Chen knelt beside the remains. Veterinarian, worked here. We need to look into this clinic's complete history. The clinic records told a clear story. Founded in 2005 by Dr. Sarah Williams, a young veterinarian who'd returned to her hometown to serve the community. And there was one significant missing person case in the files. Dr. Sarah Williams, 34 years old, disappeared March 15, 2009. Detective Chen opened the thick case file from 2009. The original investigation had been conducted by Sheriff Robert Hayes, now retired and living in Billings. Chen called him that evening. Sarah Williams, Hayes said slowly. He was 67 years old now. Wonderful veterinarian. The whole town loved her. She disappeared after supposedly getting an emergency call one night. We looked everywhere for months. No trace whatsoever. Chen asked the critical question. Any suspicious people at the time? Hayes paused. Her business partner, Michael Patterson, he took over the clinic after she vanished, seemed genuinely upset. We found no red flags back then. DNA comparison was done immediately. Sarah's mother, Margaret Williams, was 73 and still lived in Riverside. She provided a reference sample. 1 week later, the results came back. Perfect match. The skeleton sealed in the wall was definitely Sarah Williams. Sarah Elizabeth Williams was born in Montana on June 8, 1975. She grew up in Riverside as the only child of Margaret and Thomas Williams. Her father owned a small ranch, and from the earliest age, Sarah showed an extraordinary connection with animals. She'd help with farm animals, rescue injured birds, care for sick calves. She was naturally talented. At 12 years old, she successfully treated her first case, a dog with a broken leg. After finishing high school with honors in 1993, she was accepted to Colorado State University Veterinary School. She graduated in 1999 with distinction and worked for several years at a large veterinary clinic in Denver, gaining experience with both small animals and livestock. But in 2005, at age 30, she made a decision that would define her life. She decided to return home. I want to serve people and animals here, not the big city. This is where I belong, where I can make a real difference, she told her mother. She opened Mountain View Animal Clinic with a small business loan and her savings. As the only veterinary clinic in the area, she served the entire rural community. Pets, farm animals, ranch livestock, all were Sarah's responsibility. In emergencies, she'd be called even at midnight, and she would never refuse. The town loved her deeply. She was patient, dedicated, and truly cared about every animal. She'd treat families with limited finances for free or at reduced cost. She organized free vaccination clinics for low-income pet owners. Sarah was more than a veterinarian. She was part of the community fabric. In 2007, she got engaged to David Cooper, a biology teacher at the local high school. They'd met at a community event and bonded over their shared love of science and helping others. They bought a small house on Elm Street and adopted 2 rescue dogs named Max and Bella. They planned to marry in summer 2010. Sarah was genuinely happy with her life. But there was something important Sarah didn't know. Her business partner was becoming increasingly dangerous. Michael Patterson was born in Montana in 1971. His childhood was troubled. His father struggled with alcoholism and left when Michael was young. His mother passed away from cancer when he was 16. He was raised partly by an aunt. He trained as a veterinary assistant at a technical school. In 2007, at age 36, he started working at Sarah's clinic. Sarah liked Michael initially. He was hardworking, skilled with animals, and seemed dedicated. In 2008, she made him a business partner, giving him 30% ownership. He's reliable and committed, she told David. We can grow the clinic together and serve more animals. But Michael had a secret problem that Sarah knew nothing about: a severe gambling addiction. On weekends, he'd drive to casinos in Missoula, 3 hours away. First, he bet small amounts, then progressively more. By early 2009, he owed over $80,000 to various casinos and dangerous loan sharks. Creditors were pressuring him constantly: phone calls, threats, demands for immediate payment. Michael was desperate and drowning. He'd maxed out credit cards, borrowed from friends, sold his truck. Nothing was enough. Sarah's clinic had a substantial insurance policy: $200,000 in death benefits. As her business partner, if something happened to Sarah, Michael would inherit her share and could claim the insurance payout. In March 2009, creditors gave him a final ultimatum: pay $50,000 within 1 week or face severe consequences. Michael had no money and no options. But he had a terrible plan forming in his desperate mind. March 15, 2009, Sunday evening. Sarah was working late at the clinic, catching up on paperwork and post-surgery notes after a busy week. Michael was also there, supposedly cleaning and organizing. At 11:30 p.m., Sarah's phone rang. She answered immediately. A caller claiming to be Farmer Johnson said his horse was critically ill, possibly suffering from colic, and needed emergency veterinary attention. Sarah didn't hesitate. She prepared her emergency medical bag. "I'm heading out to Johnson's ranch," she told Michael. "Can you lock up when you're done?" "Of course," Michael said, "but first, could you help me check something in the back storage? I think there's a leak and I want your opinion before you leave." Sarah, always helpful, followed him to the back storage area. The storage was dimly lit and quiet. "Where exactly?" Sarah asked, looking around. Michael hesitated for just a moment. His hands were shaking. Then he made his decision. There was a heavy metal rod leaning against the wall, normally used for moving large dog cages. Michael grabbed it with both hands and struck Sarah from behind. The impact was brutal and sudden. Sarah fell to the concrete floor, shocked and confused. "Why, Michael?" Michael, panicking now, adrenaline surging, struck her again and again. Sarah stopped moving. Michael dropped the rod and checked her pulse with trembling fingers. Nothing. Sarah Williams was gone. Michael Patterson was born in Montana in 1971. His childhood was troubled. His father struggled with alcoholism and left when Michael was young. His mother passed away from cancer when he was 16. He was raised partly by an aunt. He trained as a veterinary assistant at a technical school. In 2007, at age 36, he started working at Sarah's clinic. Sarah liked Michael initially. He was hardworking, skilled with animals, and seemed dedicated. In 2008, she made him a business partner, giving him 30% ownership. "He's reliable and committed," she told David. "We can grow the clinic together and serve more animals." But Michael had a secret problem that Sarah knew nothing about: a severe gambling addiction. On weekends, he'd drive to casinos in Missoula, 3 hours away. First, he bet small amounts, then progressively more. By early 2009, he owed over $80,000 to various casinos and dangerous loan sharks. Creditors were pressuring him constantly: phone calls, threats, demands for immediate payment. Michael was desperate and drowning. He'd maxed out credit cards, borrowed from friends, sold his truck. Nothing was enough. Sarah's clinic had a substantial insurance policy: $200,000 in death benefits. As her business partner, if something happened to Sarah, Michael would inherit her share and could claim the insurance payout. In March 2009, creditors gave him a final ultimatum: pay $50,000 within 1 week or face severe consequences. Michael had no money and no options. But he had a terrible plan forming in his desperate mind. March 15, 2009, Sunday evening. Sarah was working late at the clinic, catching up on paperwork and post-surgery notes after a busy week. Michael was also there, supposedly cleaning and organizing. At 11:30 p.m., Sarah's phone rang. She answered immediately. A caller claiming to be Farmer Johnson said his horse was critically ill, possibly suffering from colic, and needed emergency veterinary attention. Sarah didn't hesitate. She prepared her emergency medical bag. "I'm heading out to Johnson's ranch," she told Michael. "Can you lock up when you're done?" "Of course," Michael said. "But first, could you help me check something in the back storage? I think there's a leak and I want your opinion before you leave." Sarah, always helpful, followed him to the back storage area. The storage was dimly lit and quiet. "Where exactly?" Sarah asked, looking around. Michael hesitated for just a moment. His hands were shaking. Then he made his decision. There was a heavy metal rod leaning against the wall, normally used for moving large dog cages. Michael grabbed it with both hands and struck Sarah from behind. The impact was brutal and sudden. Sarah fell to the concrete floor, shocked and confused. "Michael, why?" Michael, panicking now, adrenaline surging, struck her again, then again. Sarah stopped moving. Michael dropped the rod and checked her pulse with trembling fingers. Nothing. Sarah Williams was gone. Michael backed away, breathing heavily. What had he just done? He'd taken the life of the woman who'd trusted him, who'd made him a partner, who'd believed in him. But then cold reality hit. If Sarah disappeared mysteriously, the clinic would become his. The insurance money would pay his debts. He could survive this. Michael worked quickly through the night, driven by fear and desperation. In the back storage was an unused alcove area, leftover space from when the original surgery room was expanded years ago. It had been walled off partially, but never finished. Michael dragged Sarah's body into that space. He positioned her against the back wall. Then he spent the next several hours building a complete wall to seal the space permanently. He found drywall panels, screws, joint compound, and paint in the clinic's supply room. He worked methodically until morning. By dawn, the wall looked like it had been there for years. Then he thoroughly cleaned the storage area. He wiped every trace using bleach and paper towels. He cleaned the metal rod. He organized everything to look completely normal. He left Sarah's main office exactly as it was, her computer on with patient files open, her coffee mug half full on the desk, her jacket hanging on the chair. The scene looked like Sarah had simply stepped out to handle an emergency and would return any moment. At sunrise, Michael drove home, took a long shower, and tried to sleep, but he couldn't. Sarah's face was in his mind. Her voice asking why echoed endlessly. But he told himself he had no choice. It was survival. The next morning, David Cooper tried calling Sarah repeatedly. No answer. He drove to the clinic, worried. Sarah's car was in the parking lot, her purse was in her office, her phone was on her desk, but Sarah herself was nowhere to be found. David immediately called police. Sheriff Hayes arrived within minutes. The clinic was searched thoroughly. Everything appeared normal except Sarah was missing. It made no sense. Hayes questioned Michael extensively. "When did you last see Sarah?" he asked. "Last night around 11:30, Michael said, seeming genuinely worried. "She got an emergency call from Farmer Johnson about a sick horse. She grabbed her medical bag and left. I assumed she drove to Johnson's ranch." Farmer Johnson was contacted immediately. "I never called Dr. Williams," he said, confused. "My horses are all fine. I don't know what you're talking about." That's when the investigation intensified. Searches were organized. Volunteers combed the countryside. Search dogs tracked Sarah's scent from the clinic to the parking lot, then lost it. Lakes and rivers were searched. Abandoned buildings were checked. Weeks passed, no trace of Sarah Williams. David was emotionally devastated. Margaret refused to give up hope completely. "She'll come back someday," she'd say, though her voice grew less certain with each passing month. Michael took over the clinic operations. "I want to continue Sarah's important work," he announced to the community. "She'd want the animals to continue being cared for. It's what she would have wanted." The town, grieving and supportive, accepted this. Michael ran the clinic competently, using Sarah's established reputation. He collected the $200,000 insurance payout. After Sarah was legally declared missing, he paid off his gambling debts completely. But the gambling addiction didn't end. Within a year, Michael was back at the casinos. The cycle continued, though he was more careful now, never letting debts get as dangerous again. For 15 long years, Michael operated Sarah's clinic as his own. Every single day, he walked past Sarah's memorial photo hanging in the waiting room. He told customers, "I miss working with her so much," and accepted their sympathies. When Margaret brought her aging dogs for checkups, he was especially kind and gentle, all while knowing Sarah's body was sealed in a wall just 50 feet away. Until September 2024, when Jake Peterson's crew broke through that wall during renovation. If this case is keeping you on the edge of your seat, drop a comment below telling us which unsolved mystery you'd like us to investigate next. We read every single comment, and your suggestions help shape our content. Detective Chen worked closely with genetic genealogy specialist Dr. Lisa Park from the State Crimelab. Forensic analysis found trace DNA on Sarah's remains and clothing, biological material that Michael had inevitably left behind while moving her body. A detailed genetic profile was created. Dr. Park uploaded the DNA profile to public genealogy databases. 4 weeks of analysis later, a match emerged: Michael Patterson. On October 15, 2024, Detective Chen arrived at Michael's house with 2 deputies. Michael opened the door, looking exhausted and older than his 53 years. "Detective Chen," he said quietly, "I knew someone would come eventually. Mr. Patterson, you're under arrest in connection with the murder of Sarah Williams." Michael nodded slowly. "I know you found her. I've carried this burden for 15 years. Part of me is relieved it's finally over." At the station, Michael requested an attorney but then decided to confess fully. "I've lived with her ghost for 15 years, he told Chen, tears streaming down his face. "Every time I treated an animal, every time I talked to a customer, Sarah was there. I didn't plan to end her life, I just got desperate. The gambling debts, the threats from loan sharks, Sarah's insurance seemed like my only way out. One moment of panic and violence. But that moment cost Sarah everything: her life, her future, her dreams, and it cost me my soul." The confession was detailed and complete. The fake emergency call, the attack, hiding the body, sealing the wall, taking over the clinic, claiming the insurance money, everything. When the news spread through Riverside, the community was shocked and betrayed. Michael Patterson, the trusted veterinarian who'd continued Sarah's work, was her killer. Margaret gave an emotional press statement. "My daughter trusted Michael completely. She made him her partner, believed in him, and Michael murdered her for insurance money. For 15 years, I brought my dogs to him for treatment. I thanked him for continuing Sarah's work. I supported and trusted my daughter's killer. The betrayal is unspeakable." The trial began in December 2024. Michael was charged with first-degree murder. His attorney tried to argue for a reduced charge due to the desperation caused by gambling addiction, but the prosecutor was firm. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. At the sentencing hearing, Margaret spoke through tears. "Michael built his career on my daughter's remains. He lied every single day for 15 years. He deserves every day of his punishment." The judge announced the sentence: life in prison with possibility of parole after 25 years. Michael was 53 years old. He could apply for parole at age 78, though it was unlikely to be granted. Michael stood and faced the courtroom. "I deserve this sentence. Sarah didn't deserve what I did. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. I'll spend the rest of my life living with what I've done." Mountain View Clinic was officially renamed Dr. Sarah Elizabeth Williams Memorial Animal Clinic. A bronze plaque was installed. Dr. Sarah Williams, 1975 to 2009. Dedicated veterinarian who served animals and community with compassion. Never forgotten. All funds Michael had gained were seized and given to animal welfare charities in Sarah's name. Detective Chen said in media interviews, "Sometimes the people we trust most are hiding the darkest secrets." Michael lied for 15 years while working in Sarah's clinic. Modern DNA technology and genetic genealogy brought justice. Riverside is slowly healing. The clinic continues serving the community. Sarah's legacy of compassionate animal care lives on. This is Codecase Crimelab. Case summary. Victim, Dr. Sarah Elizabeth Williams. Location, Riverside, Montana. Date of crime, March 15, 2009. Date solved, September 20, 2024. Years to solve, 15 years. Justice may be delayed, but with modern forensic science, it's never truly denied. If this story moved you, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Like this video and share it with anyone who appreciates detailed true crime investigation. Until next time, stay safe out there.